commonly understood as the right to express any opinion without restraint or censorship.
Oh, for fuck's sake, I thought this was a music video.
Hello everyone, this is Champion. Ugh! Damn it, I can't see a thing in this.
This is true. However,
We're already getting the howevers and buts. Brace yourselves, people.
the right to free speech in democratic societies such as Canada and America is predicated on many other tenets that are thought to constitute a democratic society. A democratic society is one in which the majority of the citizens of said society have a say in how that society is organized and ran.
Correction. All citizens have a right to have a say in how their country is run. At least on paper, of course. And by all citizens, I mean those who can vote, those who can obviously, bear arms if that is a requirement in your country, as it is in America for men. And of course, you have to have the citizenship in which to do so. You are not technically a citizen if you weren't born there. And I know what you're trying to say in regards to majority. You're trying to say it's if you're a woman or a minority or, I don't know, a child, although children don't really count. Unless the voting age is 16, in which case they do count. But that is another question for another day. But just a correction there, all citizens, those who can vote, etc., etc., all those who meet the requirements, do have a say, at least in theory. And in many regards, we still do have some kind of say, even if that is beginning to somewhat decline. And I wonder why.
Now, people often throw free speech around in North American society as if it was an automatic right.
Whoa, two things wrong there. First you say North American society. There is no North American society. Canadians have a completely different society to Americans. And Mexicans also have a completely different society to Canadians and Americans. Yet you seem to say North America as if it's only the US and Canada, when actually North America is, well, it's not even just Mexico as well. It's, Costa Rica, Guatemala, Puerto Rico, which is technically owned by America, but it's almost a separate country in and of itself. All sorts of other countries that I could name. Those little small countries, down that little strip connecting North America to South America, yeah, they're North American. So it's not so simple as saying North American society all thinks this shit. When they don't, they all have different ideas of what it means to be a democracy. But never mind, that's just a nitpick, maybe. Your second problem is that you seem to think that it is a problem that the US and Canada see free speech as an inalienable right. It is an inalienable right. Without free speech, specifically, we would not be able to challenge government. We would not be able to say what we need to say. You would not have a say in your society, your democratic society, if you did not have free speech. Hell, even non-citizens have that right. They may not have the right to vote, but they can certainly voice their opinions on the matters at hand. Their influence is felt, even if it is minuscule in comparison to the actual citizen itself. So you've got that wrong there, but I had a look at your Twitter, and you're a Marxist, so it makes sense that you think that free speech is not necessarily a given now, is it? The First Amendment in America, although you might be Canadian, I can never remember if you're American or Canadian, is free speech. The First Amendment covers free speech. That is absolutely key to the Constitution of America, which has influenced countless other constitutions across the world. Hell, they got it from somewhere. My constitution, well, unwritten constitution, which values free speech above all else as well. They had to have got that idea from somewhere now, mustn't they? So, yeah, in a democratic society, all across the Western world, free speech is almost certainly a given. It is automatic. It has to be automatic, otherwise it's not a democratic society now, is it?
That should never be challenged or conceptually thought about.
Nobody says that it can't be challenged or conceptually thought about. That defeats the point of free speech now, doesn't it? What we're saying is that we should have the right to say whatever we need to say within reason. And by within reason, I mean that, nobody is trying to, foster violence and try and create harm by using their words and their free speech. No, but instead debate ideas, to make up new ideas, or to just express an opinion, whether it be popular or unpopular, doesn't matter. Besides, free speech is constantly challenged, conceptually and whatever the other word you said, I forgot immediately. It is always challenged. Sometimes it's challenged for the good of free speech, sometimes, in your case, for the bad. So it's not as simple as you think, and it's quite disingenuous of you to say that nobody ever challenges what it is and what it means to be a freedom of speech law or whatever. It's still automatic, but you still have the right to debate about it and talk about it and discuss it conceptually. Nobody is saying that you can't do that. That's a straw man.
In actuality, however, free speech is not the right to say whatever you want because you feel like saying it.
Actually, depending on your interpretation of what constitutes, freedom of speech, it pretty much covers that. A lot of people think that, hell, even saying and inciting violence should be covered under freedom of speech. Some people, completely unfettered. Well, I'm more of the opinion of, well, if they actually are trying to, cause violence, I think they should probably be dealt with. But hey, that's my opinion. And if that's the extent of the only time I'd ever punish someone by removing it, But yeah, it does actually cover that. It depends on the country, the constitution, and the person that you're talking to. But some people would consider it covered. And by and large, you can literally say what you want to say within any given reason, as long as it's not causing trouble. Although even that depends on what you mean by causing trouble. For me, that's violence. For others, it might be mental anguish and violence, or offence, which could also be under mental anguish. But whatever, point still stands. It does cover that. It can cover that. It has covered that.
The point of free speech is actually to give every member of a society the right to their voice.
Which means being able to say whatever you want to say, whenever you want to say it, within reason, of course, of my opinion. Again, what you just said before, that covers it. Having your say can mean saying whatever it is you want to say. It could also mean telling a dirty joke, going up on stage and reciting poetry. It could mean saying literally everything. It's not necessarily about taking part in politics. It can literally be in polite society. You can say whatever it is you want to say. We don't live in a 1984 police state where the thought police and other police is whoever are looking out for you, or even other people are looking out for anything you say. So you just say down with Big Brother, you could instantly be arrested if someone sees you or hears you saying that. That's not happening right now at this moment in time. So yes, free speech covers that, whether you like it or not.
With the intended purpose of making that society a better place, a more egalitarian place.
Oh dear, I think we're going to need some English lessons, people. Egalitarian place, not egalitarian place. I don't know what an egalitarian place is. Is this like a country where it's run entirely by eagles and run by the law of eagles? And the national anthem's like, Hark! I don't know. Is it sung by Chesney Hawks too, isn't it? Hark! By Chesney Hawk! Just wondering. But to answer your question, yes, it is meant to make it a more egalitarian place. But you seem to be saying that with a little bit of contempt. What's the matter, comrade? Comrade. I thought that's what you want.
One that doesn't just benefit the few, but benefits the majority.
So that's what egalitarianism is. Benefiting the majority, but not the few. No, egalitarianism is benefiting all. All is benefiting everyone. Everyone. It's not about the majority or the minority. It's about everyone. You're trying to make this out like it's the majority oppressors down-pressing the horribly oppressed majority or something. It's just stupid. That's not how it works. That's not how egalitarianism works. But I guess that's how egalitarianism works now, does it?
Ignoring in this video the ridiculous hypocrisy of having a democratic capitalist society.
Excuse me, Miss Marxist, but how does having a society that is democratic and capitalist in nature make it hypocritical? If anything, North Korea, a communist society, calling itself the Democratic Republic of North Korea, is hypocritical, because as we've seen throughout history, although communists and communist societies claim to be for democracy. They're anything but democratic. Sure, you may argue China has different political parties, but come on, we all know they're just different factions within one big massive communist system. We know this. You are the last person to say that a society is hypocritical because it's capitalistic. My country is based, a lot of its systems is based heavily on socialism, yet we're still a capitalist society. Hell, I'm a bit of a capitalist of sorts. I have no problem with making money. I have no problem with a free market. But yet I have a lot of socialist tendencies within me. Am I a hypocrite? I don't think so. Just ask the massive British company Co-op if they're hypocrites, because they were originally founded on socialist, capitalist philosophies. So, just trying to correct you there. Which isn't to do with your speech impediment at all, by the way.
One should note that the major point of a democracy is equality.
A democracy is really more that everyone's voice is equal in order to, decide how the country is run. It's not necessarily the major point. It's one of several major points. It's definitely a very important point, but it's not the major point. The Greeks who founded democracy didn't really base it necessarily on equality. It was more in regards to, checking power. It's really about equality of power and other stuff, which we haven't done a very good job with. But hey, communist societies, they didn't do a good job with that either, did they?
Similarly, we get many other benefits in a democratic society, such as free healthcare or free education. And in Canada in particular, these things are heavily subsidized.
Subsidized? No, subsidized. 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 Can you say it with me? Subsidized. God, you like talking to a bloody crazy, comedically, poorly spoken person. I don't know how, but you've done it. Have you ever heard of a take where you do a take of a point, and if you mess something up, you basically can just say, okay, I can't put that in the video because I said something wrong, so I'll make it again, and then I'll do it again. Sometimes you can't get every mistake out. I, for one, am notorious for leaving my thought processes in videos. That's why I hum and ah a lot. But I have improved a lot since April. But even I will try and do another take so that I get a word right. Come on. I may not be the best, but at least I try. You don't seem to be trying at all. Come on. It's literally a waiting game to see when you will mess up a word. And I, for one, would love to know how to make a clock graphic, because then it would just be a case of tick-tock, tick-tock, speech impediment, bing! Like that. But never mind, let's just see where your point goes. I just thought I'd make a cruel joke at your expense.
By the government.
Those things are not necessarily a given in a democratic society. Just look at America. They don't have free healthcare. They certainly do not have an entirely free education system. And I don't think Canada has an entirely free education system either. Britain certainly doesn't. Sure, we've got the comprehensive school system, which is free. And yes, we've got the NHS, which is free for now. But we certainly are not entirely free. And that is certainly not necessarily because of a democratic government. I think you need to kind of learn a bit about what a democracy is, or what a democratic society is.
This isn't accidental. We get the right to education and to represented society or government because these two things are interconnected.
How is education and representative government connected? You do realise that even back in the day when government wasn't so representative, we still had education, or free education for that matter. There is no real link there at all. The only link is that a government set up a free education in a country. But by and large, you don't need a representative government, to have free education. Hell, a franchise government could implement free education if that franchise deems it necessary, if they're being generous enough, because most of them will be rich and own property now, wouldn't they?
Let me step back. The point of free speech is to give every member in a society the right to their voice. In order to make that society a place where all voices are heard, and therefore, that society would then be a place that would benefit the majority.
Again, your logical train of thought just completely goes away. You're saying that free speech is meant to, empower and help everyone. Yeah, you're saying it's helping a majority. That's not the point of freedom of speech. If freedom of speech truly helped a majority, if that was what it was for, then how come it's banned in so many countries? Or at least is incredibly limited? If anything, it helps the minorities more than it does the majorities. Just saying.
So a part of free speech is citizenship. You are a citizen of a society, and you should, as a citizen, have a right to be involved in how that society is shaped. An important part of being a citizen is being involved. Being a citizen is about voting. It's about social activism or community service.
It is also equally as important to abstain from any of those things. You could totally opt out of society as a citizen, that is your right, as well as abstaining from voting, etc., etc. Also, in a communist society, it is about communal service and other stuff like that. But in a democratic society, being a citizen can be whatever you want to make it to be. You are free to do what you want to do within a democratic society because you're given freedom of choice, freedom of speech, the pursuit of happiness, etc., etc. You're given all these things to do what you want to do as long as you don't disobey the law, It may be in a communist society what you said rings true, but not in a country like this or in Canada or in America. There's a lot more choice in the matter than just that. The whole role of a citizen is not necessarily down to those three things. Pigeonholing citizenship in such a way does not help your argument, nor is it fair.
It's about being engaged with your society in order to, again, make it a better place.
That is one aspect of being a citizen. You can also just not do that. You don't have to do that at all. You can just completely just live your life the way you see fit and not even just take a part in the whole society thing. Look at MGTOW. They're choosing not to get married and have kids. Look at hippies. They just went and made completely different communities outside of any major urban area or even rural area. They just went and made their own little communities away from major polite society at large. They were allowed to do that because that is what being a citizen is in democratic societies. The right to do what you want to do as long as it is legal and within bounds of the law. Of course, hippies did smoke a lot of weed, but hey, who didn't back then? And who doesn't now?
So one of the reasons we have the right to education is in order to educate ourselves about the society we live in. So we know what we're talking about and are aware of all relevant information when voting or being involved in society or making political and social decisions.
When I was in school, I only got barely 1 hour of a lesson devoted to what our political system is about. I only learnt about that afterwards or through extracurricular activities. Most of it was teaching me skills that I would need to help me in the workplace, to help me get a job. That's what high school or secondary school, whatever you want to call it, is for. It is the higher educations that really teach you about the political system and how it all works, or by looking it up yourself or asking your parents. School doesn't really equip you to do all this stuff. I don't think you really know how school works. You're taught how to read and write, you're taught how to do maths, you're taught maybe a language, you're taught physical activities, all sorts of stuff. But they don't help you in the political arena as such, really. A lot of that stuff is extracurricular. It's not compulsory in the curriculum at all. Only in other higher education subjects do you even get a glimpse of that at all.
Universities were actually created with the philosophy of trying to make more engaged and intelligent citizens.
Well, that's what they say on paper, but it isn't what they've been churning out for the past thousands of years now, is it? Yes, I know what some of my anti-SJWs will be thinking. Mitch, how could you possibly say such a thing? Well, just look back at the many people who have been banned from universities throughout the years and tell me that university is about creating intelligent people to go into the workforce and that it's always been about freedom of speech. It's never been about those things. It's always about churning out the next mainstream person. Very few people actually come out and be intelligent people. It's all really about trying to get a better way to get a job or to get into industries that require those degrees. You need to get the skills to be an engineer? Go to university. You need the skills to be an historian? Go to university. You want a better way to become a writer or a journalist? Go to university. That's what it's for. It's not really about making more intelligent people as such. You can't really make a person more intelligent by going to university, because usually by then their cognitive development is pretty much finished. You can certainly make them more knowledgeable, but by and large, depending on what we mean by intelligence, you're not going to make them smarter. This is how people like all those other SJWs have come out with gender studies degrees and end up as baristas, because they're clearly not intelligent enough to do other things. They didn't come out of university more intelligent, quite the opposite in fact. They came out dumber.
The reason we want to make more intelligent citizens is...
Citizens. You went a little bit Martian there. Citizens. You're an ice warrior now.
because, you guessed it, we want them to be involved.
Politicians only want these people involved so they can get votes. Employers want them involved because they need a workforce. That's pretty much it. But you don't have to get involved. You don't have to. That is only what certain people in a society think. That's not what we all think. You're generalising here.
Once they're involved, they can voice their opinions and their thoughts using free speech in order to make society a better place for everyone.
You don't have to go to university in order to use your free speech to make society a better place. You can get a vocation. You can get an apprenticeship, which is equally as important and equally as legitimate as a degree, and your voice would be as strong as someone with a degree. Free speech is not about sending someone to a university which makes their voice apparently more important than someone who doesn't have a degree, and then making society a better place. Yes, the end goal is to make society a better place through the use of universities, but that doesn't necessarily mean that society is going to be a better place because these people have gone through university, got their degrees. Quite the opposite. It could make society worse, as is the case with the current social justice virus that we're currently dealing with here. I mean, I don't know if you went to university or not, but you're a prime example of that.
A society that benefits the majority.
What is it with this majority bullshit that you're talking about, Jaded? Seriously, people go to university, they learn an important skill, like plumbing, engineering, all sorts of important things, STEM fields, science, all sorts. How does that benefit a majority? That benefits everyone. The fact that we've got more people with important skills. Hell, even a historian benefits someone in some way. If they don't become an historian writing books which provide entertainment and knowledge to people, they're using that analytical stuff that they've learned as researchers. Or maybe they'll go into Hollywood and be Hollywood researchers for historical dramas, which could then, in turn, benefit the arts, because maybe they get a taste of what it's like to make a film and they go and become directors or writers. Do you see what I mean? It benefits everyone. You might not like the movie, but at least it benefits the country and makes a lot of money for said country and said Hollywood companies. But that's besides the point. This majority bullshit malarkey doesn't work when people who are engineers benefit everyone. Who is this minority and who is this majority? You haven't actually specified who they are, and your argument is not logically sound, because in the end, these people are benefiting everyone. That's the point. It's not about a majority, it's about everyone. Egalitarianism is called egalitarianism for a reason. It's for everyone. Everyone!
What free speech actually is in a democratic society is not the right to say whatever you want because you feel like saying it. Free speech is the right to educated speech.
What? I'm sorry? Educated speech? What is that? How do you know that a democratic society's free speech is not a right to say what you want to say, but is a right to educated speech? Citation needed on that, because that's an assertion, not a factual argument. That is not based on anything remotely from reality, as far as I'm aware. Do go on, please, explain this. What is educated free speech? Because, as far as I'm aware, that's just an educated person's free speech, compared to someone who's not as educated. Both people's rights are exactly the same. It's completely equal. They can all say what they want to say, but apparently, because this other one has a degree and the other might not, that makes the other guy with a degree more, I don't know, more equal. Because of it, in regards to freedom of speech, that doesn't even make sense. That doesn't compute, girl.
If you utilize your right to freedom of speech, but then are socially and politically apathetic, if you don't vote, if you don't educate yourself on social issues, if you're not involved in the community, if you're not involved in being a citizen, an educated citizen, you have no right to free speech.
Yeah, you do. You could totally be like that and have freedom of speech. There is no law that says you have to get a degree, you have to get an education, you have to join in with the Soviet, the commune, and work and toil. You have to, be involved with your neighbours and involved with everyone and everything and blah, 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 blah. And then you get freedom of speech. That is not how the law works in Canada, in Britain, in America, hell, in Mexico, in all other countries that have freedom of speech. That's not how freedom of speech works. That is not freedom of speech. That is something completely different. That is totalitarianism. That is what it is. And that is not what you're describing when it comes to what we currently have in our freedom of speech laws.
Not within a democratic society, anyways.
Oh, but it's totally in a communist society, isn't it?
Because the point of free speech is not to validate your ego and to provide you with a platform for your ignorant and idiotic opinions.
Yes, it is, actually. You're doing it right now. I'm doing it right now. I'm doing this for the 700 odd subscribers that I have, and they validate my ego because I've got an audience who agree with me or disagree with me, and who want to listen to me, and that makes me very happy inside. Freedom of speech is totally covering that. You could totally use freedom of speech for that. Totally. Just because you're a communist and you think that everything has to work within this sort of constructivist mould, freedom of speech can only help the community, a citizen can only help the Soviet. No. That's not how life works in the West, girl. That's not how it should work. If you think it should work, fine. But in my opinion, no. You should be able to abstain and be a slacker within means. I mean, if you're not going to contribute your taxes, then you can fuck off. But you can totally be lazy while having a job and paying taxes. Hell yeah. I'm not saying you have to be a benefit scrounger or anything. Just, sure, if you want to slack a little bit, or whatever, fine. Just as long as you're obeying the law and not being a drag on society. You're not being a drain.
The point of free speech is equality.
The point of freedom of speech is not about equality. It is about the right for you to say what you want to say in society, within reason. It's not about equality. The outcome is that everyone has an opinion that is equal, but its point is not equality as such. Look, even in the 50s when society wasn't as equal, everyone's opinion on paper was equal. Martin Luther King could go up there and talk his stuff, and then a KKK guy, a day later could go and do the same. And if they were still alive today, whoever those guys were, it doesn't have to be Martin Luther King or, generic KKK people. They could still do that today, within reason. It's not about equality, it's just your voice is allowed to say whatever it can say, within reason. That's the point. The point is that you have a say in your society. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going for an equal society as such, but never mind. It gets into semantics there.
The point of free speech is to create a democratic state.
No, that is the outcome of a democratic No, that is the outcome or a, thing that you need in order to create a democratic society. But it's not the thing that actually creates it. You need loads of different things in order to create a democratic society. That's stupid. Even the nobles who forced King John of England to create Magna Carta had freedom of speech once Magna Carta was created, and that wasn't a democratic society at all. That was an absolute monarchy. Just saying.
The point of free speech is not and should not be to oppress the voices and experiences of marginalized groups.
But it doesn't, though, does it, Jaded Culture? Can you at least give me one example of freedom of speech oppressing someone? Because I and do not have one where it does. It's actions that oppress people, not words. Freedom of speech is words, language. Language is just language. Words are just words. Words can't do shit without actions and context. Oppressive actions oppress people, not language. Hell, not even people saying, I think that person should not have a right to speak. That's not oppressing someone. That is someone's opinion. Their opinion is that they want to oppress someone because they don't want to hear them speak. But they've not taken an action. They may or may not take an action, but until they take an action to silence that person, they are not oppressing them. Come on, this is baby stuff.
If you think you have the automatic right to talk out against things like racial, gender, LGBT, age, immigrant, and so on inequality, and say these things don't exist, despite the overwhelming amount of evidence that proves you wrong, then you're talking out of privilege.
They're not talking out of privilege, they're talking out of their arse. And just because they say these things doesn't mean that therefore they are oppressing someone. That's just their opinion. You actually have to act upon those words in order to oppress all these groups. You know, like sodomy laws and all sorts of other heinous shit, Jim Crow, etc. That is action oppressing people. That is actual oppression because they are taking action. It's not enough to just say you will make a Jim Crow law, to say that gay people and trans people can't marry. You have to actually take action, and then it's oppression. Until then, you're talking out of your arse. You're not talking out of privilege, because even black people and Asian people and, I don't know, even a bisexual person could hate a gay person or a lesbian person or a trans person or vice versa. You know? Privilege is not strictly a white person's thing. Even then, privilege is not the word you're looking for. It's prejudice. And again, it's not necessarily restricted to white people, which you're implying. Because, as I said before, black people do not like gay people, or lesbian people, or bi people. Asian people do not necessarily like them either. And vice versa, you know? It's that simple.
Just because racism and sexism, for example, don't affect you, it doesn't mean these things don't exist.
Can you actually name me one person who has said they don't exist? Because this is a straw man right now.
And just because you watched a bunch of anti-feminist videos on YouTube and read a bunch of things that were posted in the Coontown subreddit, it doesn't mean you're educated on these topics.
What? I watched the former. I don't read the latter. I've actually read your literature as well. I've seen your videos. I have talked to people like you. And I've still come to a completely different conclusion to what you think I've come to the conclusion of. Again, you're just straw manning. You're assuming that because somebody doesn't agree with your position, they must be a racist or a sexist. When in fact, no, they're not. Again, this immaculate straw man that you've constructed does not help your argument because it is a straw man. It's not real. You're arguing against something that doesn't exist because your argument would have no weight if such a thing didn't exist.
People promote privilege and ignorance under the guise of free speech. They hurt society.
Citation needed, because nobody's doing that, as far as I'm aware. Please, give me evidence. You're just talking out your ass. You're just asserting here. And what can be asserted without evidence can be dismissed without evidence, and I dismiss it thus.
They undermine democracy and violate the tenets that constitute a fair and just society.
It would if they actually existed, but they don't. You're just straw manning and creating bullshit and asserting things that might not actually be true. So please, come back to me when you've actually got stone cold evidence of people doing this shit, and I will stop making the accusation towards you, as I'm going to do now, that you're just making this up to take away my right to freedom of speech. Because this is exactly what a person tells me in order to say, oh, you can't say that word because you're just using this as an excuse for freedom of speech. Look at these people. They're using freedom of speech as an excuse to oppress people because they say words that I don't like. So please, don't give me this authoritarian bullshit.
This is actually when censorship can become a socially powerful tool.
Oh please, don't tell me you're advocating censorship now in order to protect the minorities. You do realise you're just doing a disservice to people like us, right?
Social minorities, racial, gender, or otherwise, spend years educating themselves on society, both informally and formally. And we use logic and evidence to back up our arguments.
You said argument. Oh god. And it's ironic that you've not used any of those things in order to back up your argument or to help your argument. Quite the opposite, in fact.
Often rigorously. But because we're minorities, we are talked over.
No, not really. You're not talked over. Explain how you're talked over. Give me evidence on how your opinion and your voice is being talked over by the majority, white people. Please tell me, because I don't feel like my voice is being talked over. I certainly think I know why you would think that, because there's a bunch of white upper class, maybe upper middle class women called feminists who are speaking on your behalf, and you can't quite get in there. Is that what you're trying to say? Is that what you're really trying to say here? Because I think this is projection. It's not us that are doing it to you, you know, us who are not SJWs, but you yourselves. You do it. You do it. This is why Not Your Shield exists.
Our opinions are devalued. Our education is questioned.
Again, just another assertion, not backed up by logic or facts. Are you really going to be ironic the entire video? Seriously? Please, give me evidence of this. Give me actual proof. Because that is not happening. That is illegal under the law, actually. You're not supposed to do that to anyone. Anyone. You seem to be trying to find something to be oppressed by, but you're just clutching at straws here. Or you just don't have much of a life, so you're creating one for yourself.
We are ignored. Our voices and experiences are ignored.
No, they're not, considering that affirmative action is actually, devised specifically for us. The amount of times I have applied for work and seen on some, in fact not just some, many different applications, that applications by BME, or Black Minority Ethnic, which is a stupid term in and of itself, people to, get that job would be incredibly, wanted by them. They want people like me, people like you, to get these jobs because they think they've got too many white people, when really what they don't have is not enough skilled people in those jobs. If we stopped seeing things like through race and gender, through those stupid identity politics lenses, you wouldn't be complaining about prejudice and all this bullshit, because you would realise that really Western society has it good in regards to shit like that. It really does. And besides, it's against the law to discriminate. Again, you are not ignored, your experiences are not ignored, because every time we get these SJW protests with loads of upper class white students and teachers protesting alongside these minorities, SJWs, about bullshit that happened. Just look at the Me Too protests. Just look at them. Are you telling me that you're getting ignored? No! What about that clip in Yale where that girl screeches at that guy? That her bloody head of university. She screeches at him. She should have been bloody expelled on the spot, but no, she wasn't. Because her voice had to be heard.
Because our experiences are not the experiences of the privileged, of the powerful.
Neither is mine. And neither is the majority of white people either. But because they're white, you see them as privileged. You see them as powerful, when they're not. Look at half my family. In fact, not even half. Probably about 3/4 of my family are white. And they're all working class. I can't think of a single person in my family that isn't rich. They might have some money, but they're not rich. They're not, 6 figures rich. They're not even 4 figures. That's not privilege. At all. You are more privileged than they are.
The privileged censor the marginalized every single day. They censor our voices and they censor our experiences.
That is patently untrue. Again, give me evidence, because I've got evidence of feminists and SJWs doing it to people like me. Just look at Jenny McDermott. Look at my videos. Look at the chat logs. They are devising false flagging campaigns to silence people like Oz and Justin Templer. Then you've got the myriad of clips of feminists such as Shanti Binks and others campaigning and protesting against MRAs who are speaking at college campuses. Why? Because they're MRAs and they don't like what they have to say. That's why. And you're telling me that the majority are censoring minorities? No, it's not. If anything, it's the majority of this social justice mindset. In fact, no, they're the minority. Social justice warriors are the minority. Feminists are the minority, oppressing the majority. That's what happened in apartheid. It's what's happening in North Korea. The minority being the government there, but you know what I mean. This is the reverse of what you are claiming is happening in real life. This is not based on reality. That is an assertion, while mine is based on facts. And they're all out there.
Every fucking day.
No, they're fucking not.
They deny us our voices through everyday social interactions, and they deny us through political and legal structures and everything in between.
Provide examples for that. Do you mean manspreading, which is basically the way I sit? Am I pressing you by doing that? Bear in mind, we're both mixed race, okay? Apparently you're mixed race. You do kind of look mixed race. I'm not going to deny that. But apparently I am oppressing you by sitting down right now. I am sitting down with my legs wide open. That's apparently oppressive. And right now I am speaking in opposition. An opposition opinion. And apparently that is also oppressive in many ways. Yet am I an oppressor? I'm not a majority in my country. In fact, even if I weren't mixed race, I'd still be a minority. Because I have Asperger's, which is a mental illness or disorder, depending on what you believe. Am I then oppressing you there? You see what I mean? It's bullshit, girl. It's bullshit. So again, what do you mean by everyday social activities? And what do you mean by political things too? Because as far as I'm aware, they're not the ones doing it. It's people like you who are trying to implement the policy to oppress people by taking away their freedom of speech. Why do you think Zoe Quinn and Anita Sarkeesian went to the UN? You keep claiming that your voices are being unheard, yet you're going to the fucking UN and being heard. You've got protests, but are not getting, silenced. They're allowed to run their natural course. The police are being surprisingly fair with you in that regard. Incredible, isn't it? What reality really is.
So when you comment on my YouTube videos or on my Twitter accounts and you call me a dumb bitch, make comments about my makeup or my body, you deny me my voice.
No, they're not. They're expressing an opinion. If expressing an opinion is now denying somebody's voice, that means you are oppressing me for being such a fucking lunatic. You see what I did there? I used your own argument against you. Now you are the oppressor. You sprouting this fucking authoritarian bullshit from your mouth is now oppression. Deal with it. Come at me, bro. What do you say now, SJW?
You act like the fact that because you're cis or white or middle class or male or whatever, it makes your opinion more valuable than mine.
I'm actually mixed race, straight and heterosexual. And also cis. Although I don't like to call myself cis. I just call myself normal. Because I am the norm. And I am certainly not saying that my opinion is above yours. I just think my opinion is right and better than yours. And just because this imaginary middle-class white person, which by the way, you are a middle-class mixed-race person, talking down to other people who are less privileged than you and saying that they're privileged, by the way. So, look at the irony there. Take a long, deep look into yourself and realise, yeah, I'm being a bit of a hypocrite. These people do not automatically assume that just because of who they are. Quite the opposite, in fact. I think you'll find it's upper-class white women who think that, but never mind.
Even though my opinions are backed up by years of education, logic, support, and a ridiculous amount of evidence that you refuse to recognize.
Because you don't have any of those things! Stop bullshitting us! You've not once given me any evidence, you've not once used any logic, and you've never used any facts. You've made most of it up. In fact, pretty much nearly all of it. I, on the other hand, have. I have used facts, logic, and all the other bullshit that you have not used. That is why they don't take you so seriously. That's why they do not, appreciate your argument. That's why they just simply say no. Because your argument is weightless. There is no argument here. It's just one big assertion. And you bloody know it. This is not an argument. There is no education here. This is the blatherings of an idiot.
So if you do that, if you deny me my voice...
So because they have an opinion, they're denying your voice. And because they're white and middle class... By the way, I'm working class. I forgot to say that. they are denying your voice. Not only is that stupid, and not logical, and not factual, it's also racist, because you're saying that because they're white, they're inherently oppressive, which is racist, because you're going to deny that, because you're to say prejudice. Racism is prejudice plus power, when it's not. You're trying to rebrand the word. You're trying to change the meaning. Well, that doesn't work here. Not on my channel, it doesn't. I use the actual definition of words. And racism is just prejudice. That's all it is. And you are being prejudiced. To white people. To my other half. Hell, it's probably your other half. So it could be your mum or your dad. You're being racist to them, ironically enough. So please, don't give me this bullshit.
Then I'm going to deny you your voice and delete your comment.
So you're going to censor them for having an opinion that you don't like and because they're white. Is that what you're saying? Then you're no worse than these straw men that you have concocted in your head. You are a hypocrite. You are the actual hypocrite. Not the society that is capitalistic. Which, by the way, the logic doesn't work there, because you can be capitalistic and democratic and that is not hypocritical at all. You are the hypocrite here. Not society. You are the fucking hypocrite. But you're too dumb to realise that. Because you're a social justice, Marxist, idiot. And an ideologue. And did I mention you're an idiot with a speech impediment? Yeah. You see, two can play at that game. Two can play at that game, man. And by the way, I've got Asperger's, so you can't claim ableism.
I'm going to block you. Because that's exactly what you do to me every single time you treat me than less than person.
Again, you're just making shit up, because they don't block you when they treat you as less than a person. Speech impediment there, by the way. Look, just because someone has a different opinion and insults you does not mean they're taking away your freedom of speech. You're taking your own fucking freedom of speech away, or by trying to take theirs away. Okay? This is how it works. You implement a law, or you block them, you can't respond to them when they do something else. Because you do realise that on YouTube, they can still comment on your videos, right? But never mind. You're an idiot, you're the hypocrite, two wrongs don't make a right.
Act like my opinion is invaluable just because I am a young woman who doesn't support your sheltered perspective of the world.
Invaluable means valuable, you idiot. You mean they treat your opinion as if it's nothing. That's what you mean. And they don't do that. And that's funny, because it's you who is advocating for something that is a more sheltered version of life. You're the one advocating for echo chambers and for certain people's voices to be higher than others, and that you should censor people and block people because they have different opinions, or they give you an insult. This is the internet, girl. Insults come with the business, and if you can't handle that, get the fuck out. GTFO, okay? This is how the internet works. In fact, this is how life works. Politicians get it all the damn time. Prime Minister's question time is nothing but insults sometimes. So please, cut the crap. Okay? Cut the crap. And stop this bullshit irony as well. It's driving me up the wall here. You're the one advocating for a sheltered life. Not me. And not those other people. They're the ones actually trying to, get another opinion in their ears. Even if it's a horrible opinion, at least they're trying to listen to you. At least they have listened to you and then insult you. It might only be for a couple of minutes, because it's quite hard to talk to you lot. But at least they did it. You haven't.
The point of free speech is not to oppress the voices and experiences of marginalized groups.
It doesn't. But it also means it shouldn't be denying it to other people who may be a majority as well. You do realise it applies to everyone, right? Because, throughout this whole video, you have proven to be nothing but an enemy of free speech. You are advocating the removal of everyone's free speech because you are insulted on the internet. Think about what you're saying.
The point of free speech is equality. So either educate yourself or shut the hell up.
Authoritarian leftists in a nutshell, people. That's all I'm gonna say. See you later.